In this video, I go into a minefield with you, that of sexuality. In this field, the explosives are positioned on the surface, on the excess of conditioning that revolves around the pleasure, an element necessary to achieve the objective of continuity of the species. The condition in this field is what the sellers of sexual stimuli implement, pushing in a subtle way to act only for achieving fulfillment. Today, the act necessary for the reproduction of the species must be understood as a reciprocal communication based on the right that gives the possibility of mastering and directing one's sexual impulses in the right way. One that sustains the indispensable elements for carrying out sexuality in a full and satisfying way. Because sexuality is an instinct, sexual intercourse should be an easy and totally satisfying activity. But it often happens that, besides not giving the expected pleasure, it also causes anxiety and insecurity. We must know that the freedom we have, if used incorrectly, is harmful. Anxiety, tension, conflicts arise from an incomplete knowledge, ignorance, and bad information, which hinders the right way to live it. Knowledge gives security and allows to manage a natural behavior that today is dangerously altered, improves intimacy, and directs pleasure. A balanced, loving person with passion and pleasantly unbalanced fall in love should be the prerequisites for the formation of the couple. Together, they make the desire emerge, which is necessary for a long-lived love or two. Sexual vendors push for the excitement of desire at any cost, transgressing and exceeding. This alteration not only changes the perfection of desire, but also interferes with the indispensable elements for carrying out sexuality in the most natural way possible. I want to clarify the difference between two concepts: falling in love and love. Two very different emotional situations. Falling in love is a state of mind which one lives a state of passionate grace. The eros triumphs. That is, the impulse, the drive that leads to love, which is, according to Freud, the instinct of life of the individual. It bursts fiercely, does not need anything to illuminate the sentimental interest with an extraordinary light. It is a rare condition, but like all extreme passionate states, falling in love is a process that is limited in time. It appears only at the beginning of a relationship, for a certain period, then turns into a love relationship, which, with its characteristics of everyday life, solidarity, tranquility, is a very different subjective experience falling in love. During the fall in love, the other person is overrated, and the wonderful sensations are attributed to his qualities. When the fall in love ends, it is underestimated when it don't disappear. In reality, the other is always the same. Our mood has changed, which until recently appeared exceptional and without flaws. Now the partner seems like another person. The wonderful nostalgia have passed. At present, we go to look for the cause of change in the defects of the partner, often built from nothing. Problems arise that, if they are not resolved, will destroy the power of passion. But they start a period of complaints, ferocious allegations, resentments, hatred, with mutual accusations like, "You don't want me anymore. You neglect me. You prefer to be with your friends," or "You betray me." If you do not take shelter, two things will come. Let's call them natural calamities that worsen the relationship. The pleasure is reduced until it disappears. The betrayal appears, which we will discuss in another video. However, it must be said that for all that we discuss, there is not a single culprit. Both partners lack in-depth knowledge of the problem and a correct communication in which one can honestly tell how things are and leverage the possibilities to change the situation. At this point, sexuality can become an adhesive. But be careful not to fall into the abyss of "I'm not capable." I help you give him the three parts of the volume that I will read for you. I want to assure you that the overwhelming power of passion can keep itself between two lives. If you correct the mistakes, I will list some tips to correct the mistakes of him and her. Her, never rush. Burning the stages also burns the desire. It will vanish after a short time. Not bad. He does not know how to wait. It's better that he leaves sooner rather than later. For him, do not think that the speed in carrying out sexual behavior gives an easy fulfillment of desire. Leaves time and space for gratifying seduction. For her, seduction must be a game of approach and escape. And him, learn how to wait, having the certainty that everything immediately leaves with heaviness. For her, the rapid transition from superficial knowledge to sexual intimacy is one of the most recurring errors. The expectation of satisfaction is a pleasure in itself. For him, Do not think that sexuality is a pastime to be tackled like a tennis match, which is just a wish that must be indulged. Sexual intercourse is an integral part of life. Character influences and relationships that need to be improved. For her, never say, "He's the man of my life," or "He's the right man." He's just the person you have to get along with. For him, remember that sexual performance is not a test to be overcome. You do not need to disguise yourself. Repeat from time to time. Whoever does not accept does not deserve. For her, it is easy to daydream on a man you barely know. Fantasies about the certainty that he has the ability to deliver happiness. Even happiness should be taken in small doses to better perceive its flavor. For him, do not feel responsible for something that is not easily identifiable. Try to understand what pleases her, foretelling it from the expression of her face, also from the way of her laugh, her look, from some gestures. In the two-person relationship, well-being is a boomerang. It is launched to you and it goes back to you. For her, not having the certainty that is the beginning of true love, waiting for passion in romance. Love must be drunk in small sips. For him, it is difficult in a limited time to understand what is romantic for her, but easy to understand that boredom must be eliminated. It is often a lack of creativity and variety that must be present in sexual intercourse. For her, never build the illusion of total, absolute bond destined to last forever. As they say, better live for the day. For him, it is difficult for her to do what I wanted her to do. In which case, you must make sure that you do not make this a habit. An advice: change the time, place, and rhythm of love. For her, the man of your dreams does not exist. He is just an imagination. It can fade like a dream at dawn. But it must not be difficult to go back to dreaming. For him, you can become the man of her dreams, using the best aphrodisiac in the world, which is fantasy. In this case, it can help you find new ways, even in words, which can turn sexual life into something simple, stimulating, and satisfying. For her, never take the tactics of a man who wants to finalize at the first or second meeting. It is not, as generally thought, I can satisfy him, so he will love me. He could be disappointed by the lack of seductive play, which is the main characteristic of a woman. Some psychoanalysts say that a deep masculine expectation is disappointed to find in the woman the female part of himself, having the impression of being in front of another man. Add to that, he could feel that it could replace soon because it is not the best. overwhelmed by what he perceives as aggressiveness. He may feel inadequate. The lack of seductive play extinguishes every fantasy and diminishes pleasure. You also understand why it could disappear after a relationship consummated, just like a fast food. He could turn into homosexual relationships in which love is not subject to complications caused by problematic requests. Two people of the same sex are well together to feel satisfying feelings because they are normally stable and linear, that is, without deviations. For him, do not generalize. That is, do not foresee that this desire to escape will present itself in every other meeting. In the after, always put positive expectations. That is, always think that tomorrow will be better than today. For her, do not expect him to understand right away. And do not think that it is useless to talk, to ask, to express your desires. It is easy to move from illusion to disappointment. For him, the discussions or requests of her should not make you think that you have a goal to reach, that you will have to respond to expectations or objectives towards which you do not feel ready. Live the hour, and from here, the rest will be thought at another time. For her, speaking does not mean thinking, being an analyst, and remove anxieties and insecurities. He could absorb them, and he might feel the need to escape. For him, many people sometimes feel an inexplicable disorientation. First, we must think that everything is temporary. Nervousness, stress, little familiarity with the partner, never dwell long on a road accident would become a problem, which could make us think with terror for future meetings. Negative thoughts easily root in the brain and tend to detachment and to everything that makes things worse. The solution? Do not insist on what is confusing. Bring visual attention to something more interesting, whether it's real or imagination. For her, it eliminates the nostalgic desire of the strong man who supports, that helps to protect himself from need. This man may never have existed outside of romantic movies. In many men, there is the uncertainty of one's manhood. We must try to behave on a par, transform into words, needs, and desires without ever being harassing. For him, there is one thing that is present in a relationship which gives a man a total absence of anxiety. To be sure that one obtains appreciation by acting on the mind, as paying attention to the romantic and sentimental side of the relationship. Old-fashioned ways work wonders. I don't think about writing poetry or giving flowers. Oops, I'm lying. I think with certainty that it always works more or less. For her, do not be a victim by accepting complaints without reacting. Make complaints proposals, plans, and changes. For him, always avoid being too rough. If this is your nature, try to follow her wishes and find a compromise. For both him and her, show self-esteem and don't play victim. Never risk falling into a terrible mistake. Canceling out not only for love, but also for the lack of self-love. Believe in the natural changes of things and people. Remember that both partners distance the excess of aggression, the too much sweetness, complacency. Sensuality does not transmit to real emotions. Do not make self-esteem depend on the desire, affection, or interest that the partner demonstrates. If you value yourself, the other person will value you too. Alcohol is not an aphrodisiac, but has a depressive action on the central nervous system. So it inhibits any sexual action. As soon as taken, it produces a sort of euphoria that calls the conditioning messages of cinema and television. A few words about the Book of Great Love, the Kama Sutra, from which many other similar books were born. I want to emphasize what is not highlighted. It considers that sexual practices should be practiced with moderation and prudence. 64 arts required for a complete education are listed, from singing to dancing, from writing to bed preparation, from the art of arranging flowers and to magic. It affects the cure and the meticulousness with which the conditions in sexual practices are to be reported. Particular attention goes to the relationship that binds the partners, to the place and time in which the meetings take place, to the hygiene and food regulations, to the provision of soul of the two, and the courtship ceremonials. Some will be disappointed, but in reality, the sexuality rests on two great props, which are respect and transparent feelings.